This meeting is being recorded. Hey, good morning, everybody. I've got good news for people who love bad news. Are any of you guys bad news lovers?
It could be a bad news, like, oh, you're on. I'm gonna be happy.
Okay, yeah. Well, we're not going for anything like that, but any of you guys know? Oh, Bona says he's not a lover of bad news. Oh, man. Well, I'm sorry. I've got a little bit of bad news. Let me break it down for you a little bit. How many people? We only have 14 people here. Oh, really? Is that your impression? Woo! Oh, means is that okay? So I'm like, I just love hurting myself. I don't know if this is that masochism where you hurt yourself or sadism? Masochism. Yeah. So y'all think I'm a masochist? Yeah. Okay. So let's do bad news first. Let me let Kimberly and Segal in here. What? Yeah, I know. I've never heard it say that before. It's like this meeting is being recorded. Somebody got sued or something, and now they have to say something. All right, so let's do the bad news first, and do pay attention. There was no dates. No dates are set for finals. No dates are set. You're the only person in here who actually knows what's going on. So anyway, there's no dates that were set. So typically what they do is we have the last week of school, we have, you guys know, you've been here before. You have 2-hour blocks. There's no dates for that. There's none. They never set those. Why, I'm not entirely certain. So deadline, this gets a little funnier. So deadline for grade submissions is never changed. Even though our last day of school changed, the last day for grade submissions did not change. So that is next Wednesday, and we don't meet Monday, nor do we as A block meet on Tuesday. No, next Wednesday. See it next. Yeah, we don't have any more. So I'm like, oh, well, this is interesting. How is that going to work? So here's the deal. It's not fair. It's not fair to give an exam this week, so no final. If I give you a final exam on Friday, which is be the most reasonable day to give you one, you didn't know the weekend before. So that's hateful. Can't do that. So that's the bad news. Y'all hush. All right. So this is the bad news, the last point. So the last point is this. You're not forced to study over the course of the year, and you have to take an exam at the end of the 2 years, where if you study at the end of 1 year, it kind of gets your head straight for the beginning of the next year and keeps things fresh in your mind. I think overall, I see this as a pretty bad deal. In my opinion, it's not a good thing. I mean, I could give you one, but I wouldn't want to count it for a grade. I wouldn't want it. I mean, because that would be hateful. So I could make one that we could just take just to see where we are. That's fine. Will people study for it is the question. So the one thing that's been weird for you guys as a class is it seems like some of you guys do things for grades. Very few of you, I'll be honest, very few of you guys will want to learn for the sake of learning to get better at things. It's like, is this for a grade? Is that for a grade? Is there a grade about this? It's all about grade. If you work to learn, grades follow. I mean, they just come naturally because you're learning, right? And that's just all it is. If you're chasing a grade, you're chasing a phantom. I mean, it's kind of a hard thing to put your hands on. So here's good news for people who like bad news, okay? So this is for people who like it first. So the IA proposal is the most comprehensive assignment so far that we've used. So I know there's going to be an interruption in just a moment. That's the most comprehensive thing that we've done. Now, so I'm going to use that for your final. That's what we're going to use for your final, your final revised proposal. We'll use this. So a lot of you guys are a little freaked out. You're like, holy crap, man, I didn't do too well on that. I got like a 3, or I got and 3 was the average. Most people scored a 3. That was the most frequent score. And it was 4s are very close. So a 1 is a 55. So if I take the square root of 55, it's 7.4. So if you got a 1, if you got a 55 in the grade book just for that, it's up because it's already giving you a curve anyway. A 1 is a 55. If you got that in the grade book for your exam, I will put in a 74. If you got a 2, then you earned a 60. And if you got a 60, I will put in a 77 for your exam, E2. A 3 is a 65. And that's where most of you guys were, which, to be honest with you, is not a bad place to be. If you got anywhere between a 3 to a 5, that's not a bad place to be at all, because it means you've got a pretty strong footing for what's going to come coming down the pike. 470 would give you an 84. If you got an 80 on it, a 5, then you get an 89 for the exam. 6, you get a 95. And of course, wait for it. Well, I guess if you got a 7, you got 100. And there were, I think there was 2 people that actually got all the way to 100%. So you're done. Put a fork in, you're done. Actually, I take that back. I think there was actually 1. Oh, nevertheless, for those, if you have already turned your revised proposal in, congrats, you are done for the year, with one exception we'll get to at the very end. You're essentially done for the year. Now, I also looked last night, because not last night, but on Friday. I was a little freaked out by all this. This actually helps 96% of you. There are 4% of you guys that typically on a unit test if you go, let's say a person that scored a 6, typically you would score at about a 95, can sometimes higher than this. So there are 6% of the people, but that's only for 1 unit exam. We're talking about 5 units of work. and in last year, the highest grade I got on any of these, on the final, and we're talking out of all the students that graduated in 2020, the highest grade that I got out of those was an 89, which is what somebody with a 5 would have got. So I really don't think this actually hurts anybody. I think in terms of your grade, if you're for chasing grades, this is actually helpful. So this is good news for people who love bad news. So there are 16 of you who have not completed this. I checked this morning, had to change it. When I made this PowerPoint, there were 19 on Friday. And when I checked this morning, there was actually less than that. 3 people have turned this in. So I had to change it. It went to 18 on Saturday, and then it went to 16 this morning. So there's 16 of you guys haven't done this yet. That's a tough spot, but good news, it's still the last deadline for completion isn't done until Monday at 1:15. That's when your class is out. At that point, we're 3 weeks late. Look at the date. It's the 31st. That will be 3 weeks afterwards. And that's at 1:15. That is 3 full weeks. And here's the deal. Once I have got to read all of these. And then reading, giving feedback, scoring each one for 16. If you guys, all 16 of you guys decide, oh, I'm going to turn it in on the 31st, it's going to take me 8 hours to read all of those and give feedback. And I still have to finalize grades for all the classes, including freshmen. So once that 3:15 is up, anything if it's at 1:16, I'm done. I'm not reading it. I'm going to start reading. It's actually next period, because there's 2 of you guys that did it overnight. And then 1 of you guys, I did get the 1 person who did it on Friday night, and I got them Saturday. But I'll be getting those other 2 of you guys, and then you actually are in this class, this period. I'll get you square today. And then hopefully the rest of you guys will get these in by Monday. Exactly. So that's the last thing that I have to make sure everybody understands. So everyone will be able to see their grades for the year starting today if you've completed your I-proposal. You will know exactly what your GPA is for this class, with 1 exception. I did make it, like I said, I did make a retake for evolution. It is an asynchronous day on Wednesday. If you log in and you want to increase your score on that test, then knock yourself out. You can do it, and that would change it. Otherwise, you would be done. So now I'm opening this up to you guys. What are your thoughts? How you feel? If you like it, dislike it, what's on your mind? Okay. Yeah, we've been talking about IA proposals for 2 months. What about you guys at home? Thoughts, feelings, ideas, what? Sounds good to you, feels great. Man, don't think this is a circumstance. Somebody was,
Seems like a lot of teachers have pushed their finals till this week or next week, so it is honestly kind of nice to not have another final to worry about. Although I was probably prepared for this one.
oh yeah, I think that you are prepared. You're one of those 4%. And I actually was thinking about you, but I don't think even with your grade being what it is for the year, I don't think the final would have helped you. I know it wouldn't have helped you, even considering what you got on. It wouldn't have helped you. Wouldn't change it. What other thoughts did you guys have? I was, the final that I would have given you couldn't have been taken in 70 minutes. Yeah, it's nice not to worry about another one. You guys kind of have a long year too. Okay, most of you guys are saying you like it. And so there's some of you guys saying that you're worried about it too, but you also have to weigh it. So there's several of you guys, and I'll give you an example here that are a little trepidatious about this. There were a lot of people that were scoring here and here. This was slightly more frequent than this. I want to say there was like 45% of the people that were scoring threes, and there were about 30% of the people, but 75% total were in this 3 to 4 range. So if you made a 65 on it and you get an 81, most of the people that, and I went back and I looked, and I was like, because you guys know I love to play with data. I went back and looked at people that got these threes and looked at their test scores, and the average test scores for people that were scoring threes were in the 70s. They were literally in the 70s. So, and that's just for one unit. Had we given you 5 units, probably would have been lower. I mean, so this is overall is a win. It's a total win. People that were in the here, it was actually the same thing. People that got 4s were usually high. It was in the 70s as well, but it was a high 70s. So it was like, so let's say 75 range. It was a little higher. So overall, and if you get an 84 instead of 75 or an 81 instead of a 70, man, that's like a 10-point bonus. Yeah. Oh, well, yes, they're raw. So people are asking, but so the grades are there? Well, I'm using the curve that is given by, and I'll show you where it is if you guys hadn't seen it in a while. Hold on. They're saying the raw score. It's not a raw score for the I that I put in. It's IB's curve score. So go to library, you can get there. All right, where is it? Here's the cutoff scores. Let it load. Yeah, here's your IA cutoff scores. I was showing you before, depending on how many marks. Now, for you guys, I was just grading y'all, and if you still want your rubric, you have to send me an email for me to send you your rubric back. You can see my comments, but if you want to see the rubric, I will email you the rubric if you send me an email. Say, hey, I never saw my rubric. If you sent me an email this year, I did send it back to you already. Nevertheless, this is the grade that IB suggests that the person earned. So a 22 to 24, they actually marked that down last year down to a 20. It was worth a 7, but I think that was because of the pandemic. I'm sticking with what they trained me on. A 22 to 24 is a 100, 19 to 21, 90, and so on. These are already curved. These are already curved because I personally don't think somebody would have got a 1 to a 5 is even worth almost reading. And so I hate to tell you guys that, but to be honest, that just somebody didn't put any effort into it at all. And so that's just, giving a person a grade for, saying something, which is kind of a good thing. If you haven't done one yet, at least you could do something that resemble, I mean, there were 2 people that scored a 0 on it that turned it in. You do have to actually follow the, you can't just say hello on each part. So you do need to make sure that you're paying attention to what you're doing. But even if you do just a mediocre job, you can get a 55. But I would be proud, really proud of if you scored literally a 3 above, at least you understand what's going on. If you got a 55 to a 60, you really need to do a lot of evaluating over the summer and think about how you're going to get this to a standing where you can actually do this experiment. What other feelings or thoughts or whatever do you guys have? Because I'm about to start dropping E2 scores in there like this period. Okay, that was the question. What are we doing for the rest of the day and Friday? So today, you don't have anything to do if you're not going to take the retake. If you want to take the retake, last time I was pulling people out for the retake. I was literally pulling people out and talking to them, not for the retake, excuse me, but for the IAs and letting you guys work together. If you still have questions about the rubric from the last test, I will stay here and answer questions about that. What's that? Yeah, some words. On Wednesday, all you gotta do is take the retake. I mean, that's Wednesday. And I'd do it no matter what. I would do that no matter what. And then Friday, show up, take attendance, and you can bounce. So let's see, there's a couple people in the chat. Yes, except for Wednesday, unless you're taking the retake for and the question was, so we're done for the year. Yes, unless you're going to take the retake on Wednesday, and there's no reason not to. Yes, I did a retake for isolated mechanisms, and we also dropped the isolated mechanisms grade if your evolution test was higher, and replace it with whatever you got on the evolution exam. I'll check this person that's sending me a chat to see whether that's true for you. Yeah, Wednesday is not, Wednesday is class, but it's asynchronous. Okay. If there's a person that said, Kimberly, and it's you said you'd like to see your rubric, send me an email and I'll reply to you in an email with your rubric. I'm surprised that I didn't have your email address. I thought you had sent me an email this year. I may have sent it to one of your other email addresses that you sent one to, because I feel like I sent you one back. But if not, send me an email and I'll send you your rubric back in a moment. Okay, I'm going to take a picture of attendance. And then if you want to stay and talk to me, you can, and I will go over the rubric for evolution. If not, you can chill out until your next class, but don't leave just yet. It's going to take me a second to get attendance in. Let's see, make sure, hold on just a second. See now.
How many like for each one of them comments?
Okay, and that's a good point. So if you have, and the question was, how many sentences should you write in order to score a point on a power term? If it's not an identify or state, then you really need to use 3 sentences. If you use a conjunction, you can use 2. But you would need to use a conjunction like, and, but, or whatever, to connect 2 separate thoughts. You really need to explain something. You can't explain anything in a sentence. And there were some people that didn't score points that they thought they deserved, but they just literally wrote like a little blurb or a bullet. And you do need to actually, fully write out what you're saying. Like there was some, and I'll give you an example on like the pink and brown. There's like, what's the most frequent, what's the least frequent? And people wrote pink and brown. Well, I don't know which one you thought was frequent and which was less frequent. So pink colored shells were the least frequent and brown colored shells were the most frequent. You actually have to write it out and say, because if you just say pink and brown, I don't know what you mean. And that was a common problem that people have. I did get a picture of everybody that's here. So if you aren't going to stay to go over the rubric, you can bounce. Anybody else that wants to stay to go over to the last rubric, then you can stay. You guys have a good day. Y'all have an extended essay due? Oh, you mean an outline? Your extended essay is not due this year. But that's going to be like a rough draft.
But it's not that many. We did 7.
But it is a rough draft. Well, at least you don't have to worry about this. At least you don't have to worry about this. At least you don't have to worry about this. Yeah, but your final, like you guys have, if you've done your IA proposal, you've already done a third of the IA already. No, a fourth. You're for bio. For bio. Yeah. Yeah. Well, at least you don't have to deal with this. Okay, so if you're staying, this is what I would like you to do. So hold on, there's somebody who just sent me. I just put something in the chat answering one of your questions. If you're staying for, and if you want to stay and talk to me, and the person who I just sent the message with at the end of class, please stay and talk to me one-on-one. For everybody else, just go to the last exam, the evolution exam. I want you to ask me very specific questions about the rubric. I don't understand X, Y, or Z. So here's the exam rubric. Open it up. And I'm going to give you guys 5 minutes. You're welcome, kiddo. I'll see you in the chat. I'll give you guys 5 minutes to go over that, and then you can start asking me very specific questions. I need to understand this. What do they mean by whatever? So go ahead and take 5 minutes. I'll set a timer and be ready to ask me questions. And the test, yes, the test is open for you to see too. If you were absent last time, somebody asked, can we see our test? Yes, the test is open. All you gotta do is click and open it.
Let's go. What the? Bro.
Dev, are you just getting here? Hey, Dev, did you just get here for the day?
Yeah, he's here. He just earlier had some tech issues.
Okay, so he doesn't know what's going on then. Dev,
Oh,
do you know
I filled him in on what he missed out on.
Okay, and I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna pause this recording to keep this recording. Actually, no, I'm gonna keep the recording because somebody may miss this. I know there's one person that's out and they may want to see me review this as well. Thank you, Miriam. I think that was Miriam.
No problem.
Was that you?
Yeah, that was me.
I loved your song, by the way. And I don't know if Chastity's still here, but I did not know Chastity was an artist and she was painting. That was awesome.
Thank you so much.
You didn't have to, you could if you wanted.
Oh, you're answering my question?
Mhm.
Just in my thoughts again.
So it's 7 pages, but in reality, it's only like, what, 10 things?
Yeah, it's like 10 things. I mean, have you seen the examples?
Yeah.
I mean, both of those examples are pretty sound. Yep. Is Santos? Where is Santos?
Oh, you're here? ¿Vas a venir? Ah, pregunta a Ron. Pregunta a Ron. ¿Vas a ir, Paco? ¿Encígame? ¿Encígame? ¿Le vas a ir, Paco? Ay, cuando estás ahí viendo tus videos, dices, no, vas a ir, no, güey.
Bro.
Wait,
I'm like, bro, start fun with me. Over here
tomorrow.
on.
Come on, it's because we're gonna go on Wednesday, but if we go on Wednesday, but we gotta meet up over there. Cause we ain't got school, so. Like, the option was after school, just go drive out over there. But it's just too far. It's like 60 minutes away. If I drive.
I miss Jonathan.
I do too. I'm sorry. I wish you'd be in person.
It's okay though, just checking to see.
I miss his sister. His sister was a pretty cool kid. She had her days.
Oh,
If they left the Zoom part absent.
Yeah, people left. I mean, they're not listening.
I'm
Good talking.
Bro, let's go.
Slow.
Hey, let's go, bro. I know we're supposed to leave. I'm just saying, bro.
He going back and make it out of work, man. We're so hard. So hard saying so
All right, guys. So it is time to ask your questions. So which question would you like me to go over? And when you look at the rubric, try to go by what the rubric, the number is for the rubric rather than the number on your test. So it's going to be 1A. So like, for instance, 1A is on your test is 1, 1B is number 2, and so on. So when you're looking at the rubric, like, I don't understand X, Y, or Z.
There's a difference between something being hard and something being tired. I'm just thinking about it being like chips.
Do you guys have, okay, here we go. Let's see. You only had to say 3, and that's a good point. So if you look at it, the question was, how many things did we actually have to say? So if you look at 1 had 3 possible marks. So it says more than 8, and this was also a common problem that people had. I'm going to show you the 2 most common problems that people have for number 1, but I'm going to answer your question first. I've got to let this text get off the screen so I can access my invitation. All right, so you only needed to say 3 things. That's it. There are only 3 available marks. There's a lot of things that you could say because they're asking you what could define, basically, this is actually saying define a species. What defines a species? So the two things that I would have gone for right off the bat is they can mate, even if it's potentially, even if it's potential. They can potentially mate, and their offspring. Oh, God, I screwed that up. Hold on a second. Let me change that. I don't like misspelling things. And their offspring are fertile. And fertile means can't have their own offspring. Those are the two things I would have gone with. There was a couple of other things that you could have said as well. The next thing is I would have said, and they were phenotypically similar. That was the first three, but you could have said more. So let's look and see what they would have said, or what was all on the rubric. All right. You got the interbreeding. You can't produce offspring. Okay. You got the phenotypes are the same, and if you've got the same phenotype, well, then you're going to have the same sequence of genes or similar sequences of genes. Oh crap! I didn't even know that makes sense too. You could have said their karyotype was the same, so their diploid number was the same. So if you look at all primates except for us, they all have 48 chromosomes. Their diploid number of all primates or great apes is 48. We're the only one that has 46. And we know that their first and second chromosome are the same as our first chromosome. That's the mutation that made humans different. That set us apart. Okay, let's see the chat. What does WWE means? It means in other words. So you don't have to say exactly similar shapes, similar phenotypes. This is the British basically saying in other words. I forgot what the acronym, what was that acronym? WTT. Otherwise, something, I don't remember. It's basically just like we say in IOW, they say WTTE. Because this is the Brits that put this test together, not Americans. Does that answer your question, LeVar? So there was 5 different things you could have said, but you only needed to say 3. So there's no reason to waste your time even writing beyond that. Hit the 3, move. Does that answer your question? All right, welcome. All right. You're not Earl's attorney today? You could ask questions on behalf of your client, Earl. Earl's been telling me that you've been buying knockoff Jordans. That's what he said.
That's just him. He buys them and then he tries to sell them to people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he lies about it.
And then he lies about it. Yeah. Okay. You're not being a good attorney at this point. You don't want to say these things. Okay. Next person. I'm open for questions. Does anybody else have any questions about it? Yeah, we can talk about any of this, anything on here you want to talk about. You guys are direct messaging me. There's 8 of us here. We can all talk freely.
Okay, well, for like selections, can we look over like starting on number 3?
Mhm. On number 3, right here.
Yeah.
All right, what's your question?
I just like want to make sure that I identify like the selection correctly when it comes to certain scenarios. So
Okay, all right, so let's look. So directional, let's see, 100 tends to kill bigger animals in the population for the next meet. Oh, okay, so yeah, this is definitely directional selection. So let's look. Remember, there's always going to be a distribution. There's always a distribution. This is going to be the mean. That's X bar. That's the average. And this is an extreme. And remember, and you kind of look at this kind of like standard deviation, right? So you've got the first standard deviation, the second standard deviation below, second standard deviation above, and then the third standard deviation. This is the extreme, right? This is 1.5% of the population here. And these hunters, and let's say this is antlers, right? So I'm a hunter. When I hunt deer, I'm always hunting deer that've got these great big antlers and really nice buck, right? I want a really mature buck when I hunt these things. So these would be tiny little bucks, little babies. And this would be kind of an average. Kind of an average. These are antlers. These are supposed to be antlers. These are big. These are small. These are medium. And so I'm selecting these, but I'm selecting, and am I killing these? Well, yeah, I'm killing them, right? So they're removed from the population. So the average is going to shift to the left. So the next generation, if I keep this up, it's going to be like this. It's going to be smaller. So X bar is going to go one direction. I'm shifting, I'm favoring these, the small ones. I'm selecting against the large ones. So the selection is going to be moving one direction. Disruptive is completely different. Disruptive selection would be if I were selecting against the average buck and selecting, like we were killing all of the average ones, and the only ones that were left were the little ones and the big ones. We killed all the ones in the middle. That's disruptive. And we say it's disruptive, and it's also known as diversifying. Diverse. And you could have got points either way. Diversifying, because it does create diversity. I've got two populations where before I only had one population. Now I've got two separate populations. So that's disruptive. Natural selection is just selecting for survival. That's it. This is just selecting the, selected or selection. I shouldn't say select. Let me get rid of that. Selecting for survival. It's just a broad general. Everything kind of falls under this one. Stabilizing selection is where the same scenario, I select against this, I kill all the small bucks, I kill all the giant bucks, they're gone, and we select for these. We let the average bucks live. They live. We kill these, these are no longer in the population, and so the curve shifts to more favor the average. Disruptive, you get two different populations, and then directional, you select against an extreme. So in this case, they were killing bigger animals. So smaller animals survived. So the population shifted to smaller, which is what's happened to a lot of things on Earth. People like to eat big things. And so all the bigger ones that have the bigger genes are getting wiped out. And so fisheries managers, it's illegal to kill fish once they're over a certain size limit. You can't kill them. They do. You'll get a ticket if you do it. You get one trophy tag for a species in a year. Does that answer your question, Kimberly?
Yes, that helped a lot. Thank you.
All right, welcome. All right, next one. Caleb, do you have a question for me? Abel? Diego?
No, sir. The answer is no.
Only miss one multiple choice.
You know the one where I asked which, 18-hour students were.
Hold on, somebody else asked the question. I'm gonna get yours next. You said 8 and 9C? Where is 8 and 9C? Okay, here I passed it. Okay. 8. I guess I went flying past, oh, here's 8. Okay, so it says balking green lizards living on the mainland Greece eat mostly insects and also smaller amounts of plants. So the ones that live on land are omnivorous. They are on land on the main continent or on the main islands of Greece, the bigger pieces of land. The same species living on Greek islands, so these little bitty places where insects are scarce, show greater percentage of those physical traits for eating plants. Okay, so why are they different? So that's a picture of the lizard. That's not really important. Variation in lizard population allowed them to adaptation to occur. So variation in each lizard was maybe. That's a matter of fact, I mean, this is probably partially true. Variation in each lizard population allowed adaptation to occur. Okay. Lizards migrated to areas where they were better adapted. No, that's not. You don't go where you happen to be adapted, especially lizards. I mean, have you ever seen lizard migrations? That's crazy. Lizards on islands diverged due to a lack of interbreeding. Maybe homologous structures have prevented separate species from evolving. No, not. So it's definitely not D, definitely not B. Variation. Yeah, I would honestly say, I think the question on this one, A is it. Variation of each lizard population is the better of the two answers. It says lizards on the islands diverge due to lack of interbreeding. But the thing is, we don't see a divergence. It says this. It says it's only, no divergence has happened. Maybe in the future it will, but there's only one species here. And it says the same species. So they have not diverged yet. So I would eliminate these answers. Let me put that back up. Let me get my annotation tool. There's only one species there. So they have not diverged yet because there's only one species. So I got to get rid of that one. Homologous structures, there's nothing about this talks about homologous structures. And lizards don't migrate. That's the best answer. The main population already had the ability to eat plants, and they're on these little islands and they didn't have many insects, so they just capitalized on the plants. So that's what I would do. So that is 8. Does that help you with number 8? And I think that was you, Kayla.
Yeah.
All right. She asked me about 2 of them. I was just asking her, did that help her on number 8? Okay, the one on the graph. Okay, let's go to the graph. She had another question. All right. You're talking about this one right here? Okay, so let's take a look at it. I may have to shrink this down a little bit so I can see it. See if I can get this smaller. There we go. It's a little smaller so I can see the whole thing. All right, so there's the background information about these snails, but it says determine the maximum percentage of yellow base color. So we're looking for, we've got a And here it says percentage of yellow base color shells per sample. Well, and it's asking me in the woods, right? In the woods. So let's look. The key says woods. This is the X are woods, the zeros are fields. So to get that point, I would look at, here it is, right there. There's my X. It looks to me, yeah, that's gonna be, if this is 70, this is 80, this has gotta be 75. So it's somewhere between 80 to 75. Looks like it's almost halfway. So I look at this, when I took the test, I took it and I said 77%. I took this test as well. And I said 77%. The key says it's 78%. But the point that they made is they also said to determine, not a range, they said determine the maximum percentage. That's what they asked you to do. They didn't ask to give a range. So if people were giving ranges, I wasn't awarding points. So if you fell within that range, you got points. And they get anybody that said 77 to 80%, they got that point. So that's how you would get the first part of it. Let's look at the second part. Second part suggests one possible advantage or disadvantage for having banded shells. Man, if I'm thinking about a snail, snails, just think about a snail for a minute. And I still gave people points for this. But if you're a snail, you're probably not splitting the atom, right? These are snails. They're mollusks, for Pete's sake. This is a snail. Snails are probably not thinking a lot. They probably don't have very bright of a light bulb going off in that brain. So I doubt it's mate selection. If you wrote about mate selection as an advantage, okay. But the first thing I would have gone with would have been camouflage all day long. I would have put camo. You know, for what in the woods, you know, these darker color snails, because in the woods it's going to be dark, right? And if so, let's put this out here in a forest, and they're on the ground. So this on the ground in the forest is going to be dark because there's trees above it. In the field, there's going to be a lot of sunlight, so it's going to be very light. So if you're yellow, maybe you blend into the grass a little better. So yellow would be favored here. Yellow would be favored. This would be good camo. In a forest, being brown is going to help you blend in with the leaves. There's going to be leaves there. We already know it's going to be dark. These are dead leaves. On the ground, yellow, there's going to be flowers in a field. You could blend in with flowers. You could blend in with bright grass. Their camouflage would have been an advantage I would have gone for. Bam, right off the bat. That's what I would have said. Does that help you or answer your question? You got to give me feedback. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Or no, that doesn't make sense, and this is why. Okay. Caleb took off. And yeah, I'll get his question when he comes back. All right, Caleb has a question, but he just went to use the restroom. So anybody else? Abuelito? Nothing? Turner?
I'm looking over it again to make sure.
Okay. And Kayla, I need you to hang back so I can ask you a question. By the way, there are 17 marks on the retake. It's half as long as the other one. In class, just normal class time. Just log in, take it. I'll start grading them that afternoon. At the end of the day, I'll be like, boom, let's go and we get them in. Never put off tomorrow what you can do today.
So since it's like 17 marks instead, like what would be like mainly over this time for the
So
retake?
it's literally, it's almost an exact replica. I think except I have one fossil question in there where you didn't before. In fact, I know. It's about the stratum. So if you go back and you look at the very first lesson, and they give you enough context that you can figure it out, even if you had actually never read it before, or even studied fossil before and you read the context, you can usually figure it out. It's not a hard question, but everything else, it's just a smaller version of it. Oh, and there's sexual selection in this one. There are some sexual selection questions about sexual selection in this one too. But it's a scenario. And you remember the types of sexual selection? What are the two categories? Kim, do you remember the two categories of sexual selection?
You said the two categories?
Yep. There's two. So we've got sexual selection, right? There's two main types of sexual selection. Two main environments. There's see if that helps. FC, MMC. Let me ask you another question.
Wasn't it like competition or something like
Which one was competition? This one.
the MMC?
This is male to male competition, and this is female choice. So which one produces extreme genitalia? At least in primates.
Be male, right?
With male to male competition or female choice?
Male competition.
So males fight with penises? We
Oh
compete?
no, wait, I read the term wrong. Female choice.
Yeah, female choice. So like, why is a chimp's penis so large or his testicles so large? It's because he's competing with males, but it's sperm competition, not physical competition. That's literally what it's called. When there's extreme ejaculation, you call it sperm competition, but that's usually due to female choice environments. So in female choice environments, they choose who they mate with. And often in those environments, she'll mate with more than one male. And so the selection that's occurring is going to be on genitalia. That's where that's the trait that's being selected for. And those sperm are having to compete so that you have large testicles, large penis in this case. Males usually, are they colorful or are they drab in male to male competition?
Repeat that again. The thing went on.
If females are making a choice, or if males are fighting for position to attract those females, are males really extravagant, or are they really very drab and basic in their phenotypes?
Would it be extravagant based off of what they have?
Yeah, usually, especially in things like birds. Birds have female choice, and they have actually a dual system, most of them. There's a little bit of both, but females are going to be making choices based on these phenotypes, these real extreme phenotypes. These males have got to, look insane and have traits that work against their survival. But it's kind of like if you were to meet some guy who is able to have all sorts of money, and he's able to do amazing things, like just amazing things with his brain. Like he is just extremely talented academically, and yet he's also extremely talented at sports. You're gonna be like, my God, this guy's amazing. Because if usually if you're going to be really concentrated on sports, you're not really concentrated on academics at the same time. So that guy's going to be somebody that's going to be sought out. They're going to be like, this guy's really balanced, man. This guy can do all of these things physically, and he can do these things, mentally. Man, this is the prime catch. It's the same thing with birds, right? Birds are going to look at males and say, oh my God, look at these males. They're super bright. Predators should see them and kill them, yet they're still here and doing well. Man, we got to mate with this guy. This guy's got some special sauce. And I want my babies to have that sauce. And so that's what they're looking for. Yeah, you're going to see, like, in terms of mate selection for us in your group in 5 years, girls will have no time for people fooling around. They're just going to be like, if I'm going to settle down with somebody who I could potentially have their children, then, and this is somewhere in the back of all organisms' mind, you want your children to have whatever traits that you see being advantageous for this person. So you want to get that DNA in your gene pool, and that's what people will be looking for, whether they think it or not. It's what's going on. It's just evolution. It's just how it works.
Are there like any sexual selection like scenarios, like multiple
Yeah,
choice?
it's a scenario, and I think on that one there's 3 marks on it. And if you look at the scenario, you got it all day long. It's not hard. I would go back and look at that PowerPoint. It's Evo 2. That PowerPoint, Evo 2. That's the title of the PowerPoint. It's probably the 3rd or 4th lesson. Even the videos. You have me. You subscribe to my YouTube channel, right?
Yeah.
It's called. I think that one's called Types and Modes of Selection. And both of your questions have had to do with modes of selection and now sexual selection. So that's the video I would go back and watch, that lesson.
And then also you said look at the first lesson on fossils too.
Yeah, fossils. You'll figure it out. All right. Any other? Caleb, you had a question, and I have to ask. I have to talk to Caleb. So you had a question before you left. What was the number?
It was 8.
8 on the rubric? Okay, what on the rubric? Look at the rubric, tell me. Okay, well, look at it and tell me what's up. Look at that, because the rubric tells you all the answers, and if you can't figure it out, I want to help you. So hold on, Kayla. We'll start talking at 9:35. You got told, you got 2 minutes. Get it, pull it up. Number 7. C is the answer for the one above. So the answer on this one's A. So natural selection can operate in different ways. What is the effect of disruptive selection? So disruptive selection is going to eliminate the ones in the middle. So let's look at that example. So this is exactly what she was asking me about in that first question. So remember, all populations have a distribution of phenotypes. So let's put, these are the average. These are the extremes. This is an extreme. Disruptive selection is going to be where you produced 2. So you select for the extremes and you select against the average, that is going to cause this to shift. All these die out and you're left with these two populations on either side. So intermediate eliminates the intermediate. What I would recommend for you too, did I just switch to YouTube? Oh, I did not.
I remember doing the test, I was leaning towards
Did-
that answer, but I was second.
Am I projecting YouTube now?
Yeah.
I am? Okay, hold on. Let me clear all this. What I would do is go to my YouTube channel. It's BioPoke, and I have every lesson I've recorded, and that lesson right there. Modes and types of selection. I go over all that. We did that 1 month ago. Says there. And then I sent y'all Mel to Mel competition from Brahms the same day. I thought it was fantastic. So I literally, I'd go back and I'd review these. I'm sorry?
This was the only one I missed, so I guess.
Yeah, work on the, you need to work on the open response.
Yeah.
All right, everybody else, you guys got to bounce. I got to talk to Kayla. So deuces.
Bye, Pope.
All right, y'all play in the street. All right, Kayla, ask me your question out loud, like literally speak. You
Huh?
wanted your rubric, is that what you had said?
Yes.
Okay, so look, I'm sending people rubrics based on their revised proposal.
I actually need help. Because I remember last time I told you that I just needed to finish my procedure, but
Yeah.
then I'm still kind of stuck on that because I was trying to research like how I could do the experiment, and I found a video that was very detailed, and I don't want to do it exactly like that, so I'm losing creativity. And so without the procedure being done, I also don't really, I'm still confused about the equipments that I should use.
The equipment is, I'm not even gigging people on too much. I'm really not. So I probably have the equipment that you would need here in class. The things that you really need to, I mean, in all honesty, most of the kids are sending me all these experiments and like, they're talking about buying these things. And I'm like, don't worry about it. But if I see that I have the equipment, I'll even mention on my comments, don't buy that. I got that. Don't worry about that. So for yours, what you really need to pay attention to the most, oh crap, I can't. What you really need to pay attention to is just knowing, you know, given the title, your aim, your safety protocols, if it's ethical or not. You've got to introduce the topic. You have your background. This background is like your research, right? All about, in this case, I think it was water potential. Am I correct? Diffusion?
Yes.
Yeah. So you need to, and then coming up and knowing what your independent variables, dependent variables are. Your procedures, I'm not too tripped out about. If you're having some problems there, I can help you. The thing that you need to make sure is that you have 20 individuals within each group, right? So your sample size is large enough. But don't freak out. I'm going to give you comments if I see these procedures are if they're just ridiculous and they're way out of whack, then I'm going to say, yeah, you'll lose points. But at this point, you're burning, you're coming in on flames. You need to get something down as fast as possible.
All right.
So just take a risk. I mean, that's what most people did. Unfortunately, you're doing it at the last minute. Most people just took a risk and they threw spaghetti at the wall and saw what stuck on the first chance. And I helped them and then gave them comments. And now they took those comments and they revised their last one. You know, you've been sitting on your hands for so long that you're not going to get a chance to do that. You need to throw some spaghetti at the wall fast, and then we can see. I can give you some comments to see what sticks.
Okay.
You've heard this expression before?
The spaghetti on the wall?
Yeah, and seeing what sticks?
Yeah.
Okay, well, what does that mean?
like you're just taking a risk, like you don't know if it'll stick or not.
Yeah,
So
yeah, you don't know what's gonna work, so you throw everything at it and hopefully something works.
yeah.
That's where you are at this point.
Will I still be able to get feedback when I turn in?
Yes, yes, absolutely. Everybody gets feedback. I would be an evil person, and I don't believe in evil, if I didn't do that. But that might define evil for the first time. A teacher that doesn't give you feedback, what's the point of it?
Okay.
In fact, that's what's killing me, is making sure I'm going through and looking at these. And I won't catch everything. That's why I like to do it twice. So I make sure I catch everything by the second time, because I'm not perfect. Especially when I've done 5 or 6 of them and I've been doing it 3 hours and I'm starting to get tired. That's why I like to stop at that point.
Do you have like any tips on how I can form a procedure, or is
Yeah, the biggest tip I would give you, and I don't know if you were here that day, is to, and I'm going to stop. And I'm going to send you, I'm going to do the same thing. So you're going to have to leave this class in just a second. Let's go back to my YouTube channel. I taught this early in the year, right here. Right here. This lesson, do you see this? I'm going to drop it in the chat.
But I've troubleshot it now. It ought to.
All right, hold on. I would watch this because this kind of breaks down how to do it. And this is the one thing that I really think is the best thing kids could ever do, is create a T-chart. It's called an IVCDV chart. List your independent variables, your constants, and constants mean controlled variables as well, and then your dependent variables. I would do, I would start here. In fact, I still, when I do experiments now, this is where I brainstorm. I brainstorm right here. And I really try to focus on knowing what are the things I'm going to measure, what are all the possible things I could measure, how am I going to use that independent variable, and what's everything else I have got to keep the same. And my experiments that I have done usually were ecological experiments where I can't control the environment very easily. So I have to be really careful about this. So I would use this. And remember, constants and control variables are the same thing. I would watch this video, brainstorm, and then start writing and start like, get this done before the end of the week, man. You don't have time to forget. If you forget, you're going to be in a world of pain.
okay.
All right, kiddo, you be good.
Thank you, you too.
All right.
Bye.